Hence, you have to understand, if the rain power, by the way, in the Bible, the word for God is one of the words, like Kel or Elohim, is basically the word for power or powers. If the rain god or the rain power is finite, then something else had to create it. And if it was finite, something else had to create it. Hence, at the base of the rain power's existence is an infinite power. And if what created the rain power is an infinite power, then don't you realize that compared to the infinite power, rain power has no power at all? It's totally subject to the infinite. Why worship the rain god? Worship this, the infinite being that created it, that's totally in control. If, on the other hand, you're going to tell me that your rain god is infinite, and it has all power, then what you're saying is the rain power is the same as the wind power, the sun power, and every other creative power. What you're saying then, there is one infinite power which causes rain and wind and sun and existence and etc. So realize then that the rain god, the wind god, and the sun god are all one. Infinite source of power. Again, it sounds relatively simple. And before going further to what really makes Abraham, Abraham, not the belief in one God, but drawing the logical conclusions, which should tell us why it's important for us to know this information, we should stop and think, wait a second, if it's so simple, how come Abraham is the one through whom the entire world knows it? I mean, there are many monotheisms in the world, but they all trace themselves directly through Abraham, through getting the information from the Jews. And so if it's that simple, why didn't anyone else come up with it? On the other hand, if it's that complex, if it's that abstruse, if it's that difficult to grasp, then why is it that now half of the world bases their understanding of God on that exact same understanding? Is it simple or too remote? Simple, then why didn't any other civilization come up with it independently? Too complex, too abstract, how come then half the world bases their understanding of God on it? I think we should understand it is at the same time both simple and tremendously complex. It's simple in terms of our ability to know that there's no other alternative. That the idea of many gods or no gods is something which is an absurd proposition. Something which we can know from everything we decide in life could not be true. It's illustrated by a story about Sir Isaac Newton, discoverer of the laws of gravity. He was a Christian believer, and one of his scientist friends were an atheist. At one point, Sir Isaac Newton's students built for him a working model of the solar system, with the sun in the middle and the wires and string and springs, in such a way that the planets revolved in this model. And one day his friend was visiting him and said, Sir Isaac, where did you get that? I said, I don't know. It just happened. I came down one day, I had this wax and string and springs, and one day here it was. I said, come on, where did it come from? Said, no, I don't know. It just happened. Nobody did anything. Come on, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Things don't just happen that way. Isaac Newton said, it would be nice if your ears could hear what your mouth is saying. Because as an atheist, you're saying that a far greater complexity of the solar system as it really is just happened. Out of nothing, just happened. Moving around, not to mention the complexity of the Earth system itself, separate from the system of the entire galaxy and the stars and the various solar systems. We know that things don't happen. We place our lives on the understanding within science, within our justice system, that effects have causes. It's the simplest thing to know. What makes it complex? What makes it complex is that mankind desperately wants to escape from the consequences that are about to unfold. And hopefully we can show it in such a way that it's a shame they want to escape the consequences of what reality is all about. But people have a desperate search for an escape from reality. Viktor Frankl wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. And he talks about man's desperate struggle for meaning. But perhaps another book should be written called Man's Search for Meaninglessness, because there is the other side of humanity which desperately wants to escape meaning. Desperately hopes that the silly things that we do in life and our terrible mistakes are meaningless because there's no point to life anyway. Because if there is a really important point to life, then isn't that a terrible thing to waste it? And so man has a search for meaning. He also has a desperate search for meaninglessness. If you bring the right offerings to the right gods, they'll give you the rain that you need and the wind and the weather. But then, after giving it to that, they take off. They don't care what else you do in life. Polytheism is a manipulation of the forces of nature for your own good. You give it the service, it'll give you what you want, but it doesn't tell you who you are, what is the meaning of human existence. What is right, what is wrong, what is morality. Just look at the myths of various pagan societies. Their gods were as immoral as the people who invented them wanted to be themselves. The concept of an infinite being, the consequences that we're going to draw out of it, are such that many people, in their search for meaning, want it, but in their search for meaninglessness, run away from it. And that's why even in modern society, there's a view of God, which although people say they believe in one God, is a polytheistic pagan concept. So I would call it the Superman view of God. That God is a very, very big person. Or even a very, very small old person, as in the case of George Burns in the movie Oh God. If you remember the movie, George Burns, he's as worried about his golf handicap as he is about the starving people in Ethiopia. And when he's asked about it, he says, look, I only take care of the big picture. I don't take care of the little details. People love to hear that. Because that means I, being one of the little details, are not constantly being viewed by God. That's what people really want to believe. And if you want to be a thinking person, you had better be either an atheist or a polytheist. To feel either that there's no God looking at you, or that these gods are of limited function. One takes care of the rain, one takes care of the wind, none of them take care of me. I'll serve it, it'll take care of me, but none of them keep their eye on me. In modern terms, it's the Superman view of God. You've all read Superman comics at one time or another. A very powerful being who, when I need him, will sometimes come and help me. You remember Jimmy Olsen had a little Superman watch, and whenever he's in trouble, he turns it on. And Superman, no matter where he is, hears it and zooms in and helps Jimmy Olsen. And at the end, they shake hands. And the best part of it is that they shake hands, Superman always takes off. You know what a drag Superman comics would be? If at the end of the thing, Superman keeps on following around Jimmy Olsen saying, who's that girl you're with? You know? And why did you say that anyway to that nice man? Wasn't that Lashon Hara? It would not be fun to believe in a Superman who is viewing you every instant of your existence saying, what kind of person are you? Superman view of God. He comes in and helps you and then he takes off.